Gaza's done, isn't it? I mean, what happens to these people?
Well, no, I actually think they have an incredible opportunity because in 2005, when Israel left Gaza, in order to give the Palestinian leadership a chance to create maybe the pilot of a Palestinian state in beautiful Mediterranean coastline, they could have turned it into Dubai or Singapore, but instead, when Hamas got in a brutal coup in 2006.
Oh, why is it not Singapore? Why is it not Singapore? They say the same. They never change. Why isn't it? They had an incredible opportunity when we pulled out of our occupation, our military occupation in 2005. They had an incredible opportunity. We gave them an incredible opportunity. We withdrew our military. Of course, none of the international institutions, and I'm sure Norman is going to bring this up, believe that in 2005 Israel was no longer the occupying force in the Gaza Strip. But we've gone over this ad nauseum on stream. It's just round and round circles we go. These Zio turds always end up saying the same thing, the same debunked points. Yeah, exactly, Abe. Like it's theirs to give in the first place, right? Oh, we did them such a favor by allowing them the right to. It's not even they didn't even. I mean, that's what they're claiming, but that's supposedly their God-given human right, to self-determine. But they didn't even do that. So I'm sorry, we lost our spot. But
in 2005, when Israel left Gaza, in order to give the Palestinian
Okay, that's the first lie she says. Israel did not leave Gaza in 2005, and you can't find any relevant authority in the matter that agrees with this lady who just said this. All right, what's the next lie?
A chance to create maybe the pilot of a Palestinian state in beautiful Mediterranean coastline. They could have turned it into Dubai or Singapore.
Again, they had at no point did they ever have administrative control over their territory. They were under one of the harshest blockades, all unanimously condemned by all international governmental, political, judicial bodies. That was tantamount to a war crime. It was, in fact, a war crime to implement an illegal blockade and basically Bronze Age siege warfare on the Palestinians. But she's saying, oh no, none of that was real. They could have just magically turned their entire civilization into Singapore, even though they've been deprived, things like clothing and food, and 99% of aid, was controlled by Israel in 2005, and by 2009 they were basically completely, after Operation Cast Lead, just a few short years later, after this harsh blockade and these repeated mowings of the lawn, their economy, if you can call it that, which you can't, but the foreign aid that they were getting into the Gaza Strip was now completely underground. They had completely gone underground and in what became known as their tunnel economy. Their informal tunnel economy took the place of any formal economy that they might have had. So another lie from Fleur Hassan.
Instead, when Hamas got in a brutal coup in 2006.
Again, another lie. Hamas was democratically elected in what Jimmy Carter called a free and fair election. He was there at the time, and he remarked this. And Hamas was democratically elected. And by the way, that was exactly what the United States had been urging Hamas to do as a political organization. If they want to be viewed as legitimate in the eyes of the international community, the United States told Hamas to participate in elections. Well, they made one mistake, and this is all, I'm virtually quoting Norman Finkelstein. They made one mistake. They won. They shouldn't have won. They weren't supposed to win the election. Okay, so once they won the election, then the CIA with Israeli collaborators and Palestinian PLO collaborators, even people in the, because Israel has a long history of installing subcontractors to do the duties of occupation without the presence of Israeli soldiers. So kind of the best of both worlds if you're an Israeli. They had complete control still. She's saying, what did she say? She said that she said that they were couped. That's the point. It's like, it was not a coup. It was a coup. It wasn't a coup by Hamas. Why? In other words, why would Hamas coup its own government? They won the election. What need did that serve? How does that make sense logically? Why would Hamas, who participated in a free and fair election that one of the former United States presidents personally oversaw, why would they coup their own government? That makes no sense. What they did was they defended against a coup, and that coup came from Israel and the United States and their collaborators inside Palestine, inside Gaza. And it's just hilarious that they try to, like, this chode tries to say that Hamas couped its own. It's a brutal coup, she characterized it as. It's all projection. You know, every Zionist must accuse that which they are guilty. Anyway, just lying through her teeth right now at this point. Let's see what else she says.
What happened is they turned Gaza essentially into a military base. They filled it out with tunnels, 800 kilometers of tunnels. They built.
And again, so she's making it seem as though Hamas just did this willy-nilly. It was a bright blue day. There was nothing going on. They just decided to become terrorists. They just decided to build all these tunnels because, you know, they wanted to build tunnels. Well, first of all, even if that were the case, why are they building tunnels to smuggle in weapons? Why would they even need to do that? If they're a country, they can just buy weapons on the open market, as they're wont to do, and have military bases, you know, and have formal institutions like a military, but an infrastructure like that. But they don't. They have to build tunnels underground. It's so telling. They try not to tell on themselves, but they do end up always telling on themselves. And, you know, the other thing is that the reason, like I was getting back to, the rise of the tunnel economy, there was something like, I don't know, a couple hundred maybe before Operation Cast Lead 2009, or in the years leading up to Cast Lead, I should say. And then after Cast Lead, after these series of operations, these mowings of the lawn, which the worst one up until that point was Cast Lead, but there were many other ones that just weren't as successful considering what Israel's objectives were. Basically what I'm saying is, after Cast Lead, that is what gave rise to the necessity of building tunnels into, let's say, the Sinai, into Egypt, because their entire civilization was, I mean, it's called mowing of the lawn. Their entire civilization was literally mowed down. You know, all the buildings, we can run through the stats of Operation like Cast Lead, but it's devastating. And remember, that egregious blockade, you know, what do you expect people to do? They literally have to go underground, because being above ground is not safe. And most of the things that she's going to try and tell you that, you know, it was weapons and they were just trying to smuggle in weapons. Well, again, a country doesn't need to smuggle in weapons. Why are they smuggling in weapons? Why can't they just buy weapons? Well, they're not allowed to, okay, because they're under blockade. They can't bring weapons in like Israel does, you know. Israel just buys them from the United States manufacturers. But that is explicitly denied a country like Palestine, because they're denied their right to self-determine, and they're denied their right to secure peaceful borders. So, you know, that's, you know, the point that I'm trying to make is that the majority of their economy, you know, and you can't even call it an economy, but the majority of the things they were able to let in, to get into the Gaza Strip, came from underground tunnels that Hamas, the Palestinians, built themselves, because out of necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention, and that's true in the case of the rise of the tunnels. So there was thousands upon thousands of tunnels by the time that Cast Lead is done, and, you know, the subsequent operations, certainly by 2014 when you had the next worst one, Operation Protective Edge. That's right, they buy them from the U.S. manufacturers with our money. So we give Israel $3 billion in aid. Israel said, thank you very much. Let me go ahead and just give that back to, give that to weapons manufacturers, United States manufacturers in the weapons industry. And that's all your money. That's all my money. We gave it to our government gave it to Israel. Israel said, okay, we're going to use that money to buy weapons from United States companies. And it's a big grift, and you're being played. We're all being scammed. It's to the benefit of the corporate class and the military industrial complex, okay? That's the grift. The Pentagon is a funnel by which public money can be used to fuel private profits. And it's so blatant, it's so obvious. They don't even know they have so much money they lose the money. They don't even know where the money is. They've lost billions of dollars that have gone unaccounted for, etc., etc.
Under hospitals, they built those tunnels. They built booby traps. They didn't build tunnels under hospitals. They built hospitals on top of tunnels. There's like 30 hospitals in Gaza. In the whole of Israel, there's
But
like 12.
that's 20 years ago. All right?
Well, no. They've spent 20 years
I understand.
turning the whole of Gaza into one booby trap for this Armageddon moment.
But that's not an answer to my question.
The answer is what happens now?
Wait,
If
what
you
happens?
ask me,
What happens to 1.9
I think-
million people who've been sent to refugee camps that have now been attacked as well? What happens to these people? A lot of their homes are just gone.
To be clear, the refugee camps, there are safe spaces where Hamas also infiltrate, and they put their own people. They use them as human shields, as we know, as has been reported, and they put their people in harm's
Where
way.
is their-
What happens now?
Okay, but Flo,
if you
where-
ask me
hang
where
on.
the light is,
Yeah, on that one point you just
Yes.
said, though, where are they supposed to go to be safe? Right now, where do Gazans go?
Mr. Finkelstein said
the sea.
that we're engaged in a genocide. If we were, why are we asking people to get out of
Well, let
the
me ask
way?
you again. Where can
Why
they go?
are we giving
Where
warning?
can they
Why
go to
are
be
we
safe?
damaging our own?
She can't answer because there is nowhere to be safe. The safe zones themselves are kill zones.
My
Our
question-
own element of
Not cal zones. Zones.
question
Why are we
was-
doing that?
My question:
Stop thinking about pizza. My God.
where should the Gazan civilians go to be safe?
The Gazan civilians today have an opportunity after Hamas
No, that's not my
that has
question.
subjugated them
No, you can't.
to rebuild their
Fine,
society.
that wasn't my question. My question is, where can they currently go to be safe?
To the safe spaces that Israel has assigned,
Where?
where Israel is not attacking.
Where?
Well, it depends where. At one point, they moved them from Rafah. They said it couldn't be done. You can't move 1 million people. We did, with absolutely almost zero casualties. And so it can be done. You can move a population out of the way. Hamas is actively putting them in the way.
God, she just spit in my eye. Did you, lady? What's wrong with you? Every time an Israeli says the word Hamas, I catch another cold. They're trying to make me sick.
That is what nobody talks about.
But the other
double
argument,
war crime
but the other
of Hamas.
Yes, but the other argument is that Israel
Again,
is
God
indiscriminately
dang it.
attacking everywhere, and then saying, you know what, Hamas are there, and because no journalists are allowed in to verify this, because the IDF won't let them, there is no independent way of verifying whether any of that is true.
If we were indiscriminately attacking, why are we asking people to get out of the way? Why are we creating safe zones?
Yeah.
All of what he's
I will
saying,
bring you in, Norman.
you have to understand where normal Finkelstein is in his head, okay?
Normal Finkelstein.
First of all, he doesn't believe in the existence
Straight up Nazi shit. Yeah, straight up Nazi rhetoric coming from this vile mouth.
of the state of Israel. So it's very difficult arguing with somebody that doesn't believe you should exist at all. Second,
All projection.
as a Jew, he's
think
got
we're
what
talking about your head. Excuse me.
let me
I think
finish my
we're-
point and then you
Please
can
don't talk
interrupt.
about my head.
As a Jew.
Talk about your head.
As a Jew, Norman Finkelstein has got what I describe as the abused wife syndrome.
It's the Jew
abused
hater.
wife that
Self-hating
stays with
Jew
her abusive
hater.
husband has to justify her staying in 3 ways. One is saying it's not all that bad, which is what he says
How
about
long will this
anti-Semitism.
monologue go
The
on?
second is saying, well, they didn't mean it. Anti-Semitism, they didn't really mean to target Jews. And the third way, which is he's actively engaging, is
She's like, let me look at my little call sheet. It has all my little TPs.
saying it's our fault. It's my fault. The wife that says I
All right, I'll
provoked
come
him.
to Norman to
I
respond to that.
provoked him.
Before I come,
And
okay.
this is the abuser's
Okay,
abusive
you've made your point and
mindset
he will respond.
that he is in.
Okay.
The Israeli Jew is the liberated Jew
Okay.
that has left the abusive
Fine.
husband.
Before I go to Norman to respond to that, which I'm sure
The Israeli Jew is the liberator Jew. That's weird that when they were creating the state of Israel, the main organ that bought up all the territory illegally from, via the British Empire, they didn't call it the Jewish Liberation Association. They called it the Jewish Colonization Association.
to. The point that you were going to answer, and I made you answer a different one because you raised it. But what happens at the end of this war?
You want to know what I
that-
think should happen?
No, what is going to happen?
Well, I believe.
What's the plan?
I
What have
believe-
Israel got as plans?
Well, I believe that with Trump coming into power in the United States and with a Saudi deal on the table, which has been on the table, and this is one of the reasons that they
That's
started
right.
the massacre on October
We've
7th.
I think
to
that's
begin.
got to normalize relations. Israel and Saudi Arabia. That's really at the heart of this. We have a golden opportunity to normalize the relationship of Israel with Palestine? No, with Saudi Arabia, guys.
They understood where the Iranians understood where this was all going. They deployed Hamas and they said, this is the moment now. So I believe that there's a real opportunity for the Gazans, for the good Gazans who want a decent life for themselves and not living a life of terrorism, to rebuild.
How?
Under the...
This lady is so upsetting. She's so upsetting. The condescension, the conceit, the arrogance. Oh my God, I want to do really bad things. Because imagine, after they just bombed their entire civilization, one of the worst crimes against humanity, so despicable, maimed children by the tens and tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands. And she says, I think the Gazan people, the good people of Gaza, mind you, have an incredible opportunity to rebuild now. Hang on, whoop, that's what we just bombed another hospital and a neighborhood and a school. But now, starting now, this point, we've given them so much stuff to work on. Aren't we so good?
Maybe civil administration of their own local
Where do they go and live
leaders?
when all the...
I mean, yeah, exactly. The fact that in 2014, literally 1 decade ago, to the day, Gazans were rebuilding from the last crazy, murderous, psychopathic mowing of the lawn that completely decimated, their entire country, their entire land. But, and I think Norman, I saw like in the previous, the preview clip, he talks about how, if it ended today, human rights experts, humanitarian experts that have assessed the damage or how much of it they can have concluded that it will take 15 years to sort the rubble, just to get the rubble out, And they were saying the same thing. These same human rights experts, humanitarian experts, were saying in 2014 it was going to take something like 100 years to rebuild Gaza back to 2014. It might have even been worse, like 140 years. To rebuild back to where they were in 2014. And that was a decade ago. And that wasn't even as bad as that was. That's not as bad, obviously, as this, which far exceeds any devastation, any one operation, you could say. Operation Iron Swords, I think is what they call it.
They've been destroyed.
With their own local leaders, with Saudis, with Emiratis who know how to build quickly, who have the resources to build quickly.
Wow. Make peace with Israel's allies, the Saudis, the Emiratis, because they know how to build. We need builders. We don't need destroyers like Palestinians. What a vile person. Oh, hi there. In the past 6 months, I've been banned on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and now YouTube. This is 1000% because of my coverage of Israel's genocide against the Palestinians. In light of being demonetized on all these platforms, I've decided to start exclusively posting to Patreon, where you can sign up for all my posts and live streams for just $3 a month.
Wow.
In addition to having all access to my live streams, you'll also be in a group chat with yours truly.
Wow, that sounds awesome.
I've spent a considerable amount of time and effort trying to build audiences on these platforms only to have them swept away at a moment's notice, and that is pretty frustrating. But I want to say that I'm thankful and grateful for all of your support and kind words throughout all of this, and I hope to see you on these new platforms very soon.